amazing mama. If you're battling working mom guilt, you're not broken, you're not alone, and you've come to the right place. Let's discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly of working mom guilt. Grab your drink of choice, find a cozy spot, and let's get started. In case you're new here, I'm Shelly from Personal Improvement Academy. I support multi-passionate moms who love their big dreams and the family they want to share it with. This video is part one of a 3-part series on working mom guilt. A problem well defined is half solved, so in this first video, we're going to outline the problem of mom guilt. In video 2, we'll discuss the causes of mom guilt. Video 3 is going to be heavy on the actionable steps and tips to overcome working mom guilt. What is mom guilt? It's a feeling of self-doubt or guilt experienced by many mothers. If you did a search to find this video, you are not alone. I was kind of shocked by the amount of search volume that came up when I was researching topics associated with mom guilt. So I first want to kind of talk a little bit about guilt versus shame. Because I think a lot of times what we call mom guilt is actually a form of shame. There's a quote by Brené Brown that really articulates the difference between shame and guilt. It says, "I believe that guilt is adaptive and helpful. It's holding something we've done or failed to do up against our values and feeling psychological discomfort. I define shame as the intensely painful feeling or experience of believing that we are flawed and therefore unworthy of love and belonging. Something we've experienced, done, or failed to do makes us unworthy of connection. I don't believe shame is helpful or productive. In fact, I think shame is much more likely to be the source of destructive, hurtful behavior than the solution or cure." So, according to that, if you're feeling like you don't belong or you don't deserve to be connected to others, that's a form of shame, not guilt. So really ask yourself, is what I'm feeling shame or is it guilt? Because I think a lot of times we call it guilt. We feel like we don't deserve connection because of the things that we've done or because of who we are. And that is shame, not guilt. I want to go into a brief action plan for both if you're experiencing shame and if you're experiencing guilt. Let's talk about an action plan for mom guilt. Okay, so if guilt is caused by holding up your values and seeing that your actions don't align with those, what we're going to do is we're going to align our values with our actions, which first means that we need to establish what our core values are. So once you've established your core values, then you take your actions and you make sure that you're regularly instituting practices that align with those values, okay? If there's alignment between your actions and your values, that's going to eliminate mom guilt. For example, if you value quality family time, you're going to want to institute practices that help you make sure that you are regularly getting that quality family time. For the action plan for mom shame, counterintuitively, if you feel like you don't deserve to be a part of a community or to have connection because of your choices or because of situation that's out of your control, the solution to that is actually community and connection. Empathy is the antidote to shame. So you need to find a community of people with similar beliefs to you so that you can connect with them. When you're looking for a community to connect with, you are going to want to avoid anywhere that is heavy on judgment. You're going to want to find somewhere that assumes positive intent, which is the idea that everybody is doing the best that they can get with the resources they're given. Places where mommy wars are prevalent, those are not the places you want to be. It's not helping anyone. Before I discuss guilt that's specific to working moms, I just want to say that I've been a stay-at-home mom, I have worked from home, I have worked on site, I've kind of done it all, and I have no interest in judging anyone else for their choices that they've made for their family. I genuinely believe that each mom is trying to make choices that work best for their family, and I'm not here to judge any of that. I would rather build a community of moms to uplift and support each other, and I have no interest in judging anyone else for their choices for their family. So what is working mom guilt? So on top of the normal mom guilt things associated with, not spending enough time playing with the kids, not being present enough, not having the house in perfect order, all those things, working moms also experience other forms of guilt associated with traditional gender role expectations, as well as the time constraints associated with working. They kind of are being pulled in a lot of different directions and feel guilty about their limitations and their time constraints. So some of these might look like you worked through the time that it was supposed to be time to make dinner, and so now you're doing takeout and you feel guilty about not having that traditional homemade family meal. Or maybe you're working on site and you miss dinner because because things took longer than you expected, and so your partner has to pick up the slack, and so you feel guilty about missing dinner. Or maybe you have a lot of time constraints, and so maybe the house gets a little out of order, and so then because the house is out of order, your brain is also out of order, and you end up snapping at the kids because there's a mess and you're overwhelmed. It could also look like being overwhelmed when your partner travels and then snapping at the kids and then feeling guilty about that. Like, it can take a lot of different forms. I want you to start getting self-aware, okay? As you're going about your day-to-day life, pay attention to when you start feeling that mom guilt, and then backtrack it to identify the thought that triggered your mom guilt, okay? Because it's likely that there is a limiting belief embedded in that thought that is holding you back, okay? We want to identify the thoughts so we can identify the limiting beliefs so that we can root them out, because they're not serving us, okay? They are shaping your perspective and your perception of your motherhood, and that's not helping you or your kids. So let's identify them so we can root them out. So as an example, I was a stay-at-home mom for a long time past when I should have gone back to work. It would have been a healthy decision for me and for my family, but I pushed it back so hard. For years, actually. My husband would bring it up and be like, I think maybe you would be happier if you were to go back to work. And I would just shut it down outright. Like, I was not even going to have that conversation. I just shut it straight down. There was a limiting belief there. I thought that if I was working, that it would make me less of a good mom, which is really kind of ridiculous, considering that my mom growing up, she worked as a nurse as long as I can remember, and she was a phenomenal mom. I also have a sister who's an attorney, and she's a great mom too. Like, I have tons of examples of great working moms, yet for some reason I was judging myself a lot more harshly than I would judge anyone else. And I had this perception that I couldn't be a good mom and be working at the same time. And it took a global pandemic before I was willing to reconsider those thoughts and those beliefs. And when I did eventually end up going back to work, it was definitely a healthy move for me as well as for my family. I am a better mom now that I'm working. 100%. If we don't target these limiting beliefs, they can kind of sour our motherhood. So I want you to do the same thing. I want you to root out those limiting beliefs so that you can have the best motherhood that you possibly can. Now that we know what mom guilt is, as well as the difference between shame and guilt, check out the next video on your screen where we'll dive into where it comes from. Awareness is the first step to change, so let's dig into these limiting beliefs and thoughts and find out where they come from so that we can pull them out from the root. I'll see you over there. Bye.